Park. We currently have a total of 14 historic districts throughout the county. The board, which is appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the Urban County Council, is a part of the Division of Historic Preservation. The Preservation Office maintains a full-time staff to assist you with your projects, and the board encourages and recommends that all applicants use them as a resource. The Preservation Office is located at 101 East Vine Street in room 220. It is our procedure to consider the applications in the order in which they are listed on our agenda. In each case, we'll have a presentation by the staff and hear any additional questions or comments from the applicant. The board will then ask questions or make comments regarding the case and hear any comments from any other interested parties in attendance. The chair will then ask the board members to enter a motion, and if you wish to address the board this evening, I'd ask that you please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the public record. I'd also ask that you please write your name on the sign-in sheet by the door so that all the information may be recorded correctly. I'd like to note the following staff approvals before we begin our Certificate of Appropriateness applications this evening. There are many items that the staff can approve, eliminating the necessity for all applicants to appear before the board. This evening, there are a total of 11 approved applications, and I'll need to read those into the record here briefly. In the South Ashland Central Avenue Historic District, at 247 South Ashland Avenue, remove deteriorated tree, and at 263 South Ashland Avenue, remove damaged tree. In the Aylesford Historic District, there are 3 approved COAs. That's 316 Aylesford Place, remove deteriorated tree. At 321 Grosvenor, renovate structure, and at 471 East Maxwell, renovate structure. There are 2 in Bell Court. At 261 Bell Place, renovate structure, and at 604 Sayre Avenue, re-roof garage. In the South Hill Historic District, at 376 South Broadway, renovate structure. And the final 3 are in the North Side Historic District. At 470 North Broadway, replace wall, retaining wall and windows. At 551 North Broadway, renovate structure, remove and replace sidewalks. And finally, at 470 West 6th Street, replace storage shed. I will now begin our Certificate of Appropriateness hearings. And in the first case this evening is in the North Side Historic District at 551 North Broadway. And the scope of the work is to enclose a porch and install stoops. Is that applicant present? Would you all like to come forward and give us your name and address, please?
Yes, my name is Linda Godfrey, and I live at 551 North Broadway, and my husband is here, James Godfrey, as well.
Ma'am, thank you very much. Have you had an opportunity to read the staff's findings and recommendations regarding your case?
Yes, we have.
Are you in agreement with them?
Yes.
Excellent. Just to go over quickly, the staff's recommending approval with 2 conditions: that the final details of the stoop, steps, and handrail be submitted to staff prior to the purchase of any materials, and all exposed wood be either painted or opaque stain except for the deck flooring of the stoops and the treads of the steps.
Yeah, those are agreeable.
Excellent. Well, let's see if anyone on the board has any questions for you. No? Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this case? Okay, hearing silence. Would certainly entertain a motion on this one, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for case number 025005551-E at 551 North Broadway to approve the application as submitted with the staff's recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Magrish. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. Pardon me while I flip to the next case here. All right. In the Bell Court Historic District at 260 Bell Place, scope of the work is to demolish a garage. Is that applicant present? Ma'am, if you'd like to come for us and please give us your name and address.
My name is Mary Hillpool. I live at 145 Victory Avenue.
Ma'am, thank you very much. Staff has recommended approval is submitted. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Good, very good. Let's see if anyone on the board has any comments or questions for you. Ms. Sumner? Mr. Magrish?
I just have one quick question. Is the intent to replace that structure eventually?
Not right now, no. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see if anyone in the audience is here to speak to this case this evening. I don't see anyone. So we'd certainly entertain a motion regarding this case, please.
Mr. Chairman, in reference to case number 329-30260-A at 260 Bell Place, I would move that we accept the proposal as submitted by the staff.
Thank you, Ms. Sumner. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ma'am, thank you very much. The next case this evening is in the Woodward Heights Historic District at 839 West High Street. The scope of the work is to pave a driveway with concrete and change the design of the entry walk. Is that applicant present?
The applicant's not present, but did receive a copy of the staff's report.
Okay. There's a significant portion of the proposed, well, the project's actually been completed, and if I'm stating this correctly, Mr. Giannacchio, please.
Pretty much so.
And they're asking
Except
for
this-
approval after the fact.
Right. And sidewalk, the entry sidewalk has not been completed. That's correct.
Well, a significant portion of the application, staff's recommending disapproval on. It's certainly the board's pleasure to see if to give applicant time to arrive this evening. We could postpone it till the end of the meeting. Okay. Well, we'll come back to this one in just a few minutes. Thank you, Mr. Giannacchio. Okay. The next case this evening is in the Seven Parks Historic District at 144 Shawnee Place. The scope of the work is to demolish a rear addition, construct a new addition, porch, and a pergola. Is that applicant present?
Steve Campbell, my wife Laura, 144 Shawnee.
Sir, thank you very much. Have you had an opportunity to read the staff's findings and conditions?
I have.
Are you comfortable with them?
Just one item, yes, I'd like to talk about.
Certainly. Which, if you wouldn't mind, maybe we could sort of focus our discussion in on that. And
Okay.
Which item would you like to?
Well, the recommendation, the new additions start after the main mass of the existing wall not to extend. If you look at our floor plan, and I don't know if do you have a floor plan?
We do.
Okay. What we're wanting to do is just move that wall. I think after 50 feet, you have to offset on the side yard anyway. For every foot you go back, you have to step in an inch. According to planning, the city and planning, historical, I don't know about. Historical preservation, I didn't get to see this until after we did the drawings. But we were just wanting to try to extend that wall over another 4 feet. That would take us to the 50 foot, and then we would have one offset, because if not, I think we'll have to have two offsets. I'm trying to avoid having two offsets in the additions, all I'm trying to do.
I understand.
And then my roof, the drop of the roof, we can achieve, the roof line, but I don't want to have to change the pitch of the roof either. And on the one side, on the east side, I think it is, we have an addition that already goes back there. And if I put an offset, if I try to change the center line or the ridge line, then I'm going to have to change my overhang width at some point. I really don't know how to do it based on the recommendations on that side.
Okay.
If you see my point.
I do. We'll get the staff to come up and
Okay.
sort of focus their
Glad to.
presentation on that, and then we'll have you right back up and we'll
Okay.
talk about it. Thank you very much.
This is the structure at 144 Shawnee Place. This is sort of given the site area, and this is regarding the entryway that they asked her to be extended. Sort of the side of the house. This is the west side that also already has an addition. Here's the rear of the structure. And this is the west side. That he was referring to in his previous discussion. Here's the rear of the house.
Here's an existing gable area, and then the applicant's proposal is to extend this wall, take this wall out, extend it in brick 4 feet, and then offset it, and then come out with his hardy board plank addition.
Sort of an existing addition of the yard. And then, again, here, this shows the structure from the west side, giving the profile of the roof lines. If we can show the plans. Here's the site plan. The next one, please. This is the existing site plan. Here's the proposed.
So the wall would extend 4 feet and then offset and have the frame.
Next plan, please. Here's this roof plan. You can see the 2 breaks where the roof will break. Oh, technical difficulties. The addition, here's the side of the addition. This is the east side.
This line is indicating the existing roof line, and this would be the proposed roof line.
It's the rear of the structure. And these are just 3D modeling images. So on the east side, the plan calls for the southeast corner of the main house to be extended 4 feet, then bricked in, and then the addition will step 18 inches in and continue 20 feet in hardy plank for a total of 24 feet. So the addition would be a total of 24 by 27. That would also include a rear porch area. Guidelines are included in the staff report. Findings: the proposal to construct a one-story addition and deck is within the guidelines and appropriate. However, a couple issues must be addressed regarding the roof of the proposed addition. As proposed, the roof of the new addition is not within the guidelines. The roof appears to be massive, and staff suggests that the proposed roof to be reduced in height. By lowering the roof, this will allow more of the existing rear gable to be exposed and to prevent the appearance of an over-heavy roof mass. In addition, lowering the roof would create a more distinctive difference between the new and the old. While staff finds that the roof line does tuck under the main ridge, it needs to break on both sides of the addition, not just one, in order to create a continuous mass of the roof on the west side. Design guideline principle for room additions states, in planning additions, the best approach is to place the additions where they have the least impact of the building's overall mass, form, and plan. Exterior walls in the new addition should not be flush with those of existing buildings, but should be stepped in a minimum of 12 inches for the edges of the existing building. Likewise, additions roof lines should be stepped down from the peak of the existing roof line so the existing main roof remains evident. In addition, the proposal to continue the east wall of the main mast by adding 4 feet of the hardy plank siding and then stepping 8 inches is not within the guidelines. Guidelines 2A4F and 2A4G state additions should be built in the manner that avoids substantive loss and removal of historic materials, and which does not damage or destroy the main architectural features of the building. Additions should be keeping with the exterior walls of the original building as intact as possible. Staff suggests the new building step in 18 inches at the rear of the main mast. Then the new additions start. This allows the existing main mast to be distinctive and alleviate any awkward roof lines. These properties have unusual large lots, and while the addition is sizable, the property is still left with ample yard. The proposed addition is found to be appropriate and within the guidelines. Referencing the size, guidelines 2A, 4A, and through 2A, 4E, reference location, placement, and compatibility design reflecting characteristics, current period in design, and the use of compatible materials. The proposal for the rear deck is appropriate with the guidelines 2A, 1A through 2A, 1D, and the widening of the driveway apron is appropriate with guidelines 3, 5E. State recommends approval as submitted with the following conditions: the rear addition be lowered to break the new addition roof line, not to have a continuous roof, and to expose more of the existing gable. The new addition start after the main mast, and the existing wall not be extended in hardy board. And final window details come back to staff, and all drawings and details and/or clarifications be submitted prior to the issuance of the COA. And of course, the applicant is here.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. Sir, if you'd like to come back up, we'll see if we have some comments or questions for you here. Ms. Sumner, would you like to go first?
Well, I'm still formulating some thoughts. In general, however, I do agree that the staff recommendations are good, and they're in keeping with what we're trying to do with preserve the existing structure. My personal goal is to help you accomplish your goal within these guidelines. So perhaps through our discussion tonight, we'll find a way to meet the guidelines, maintain the historic integrity of the home, but still help you meet the needs of your addition and maintain your home the way you wish. So perhaps I'll have more comments in a minute. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Magrish?
I think that the comments, the recommendations from the staff are appropriate to the building and to the site. The offset on the, I guess the long wall is the west wall.
Right?
That's correct.
The west wall, yeah.
Increasing that from 8 to 18 inches, which I believe is what the recommendation is. Just basically sort of glancing at your plan, I don't think it's going to affect, you lose a little bit of square footage, but not much. And it will, even at keeping the roof at the same pitch, it will pull another line so that you don't have a solid roof going from front to back. But
Are you talking about the west side or the east side now?
it's the
The side where the addition is, or the existing addition is now?
Okay. Is it east? It's the longest wall.
Okay, yeah, the longest
If we're
one.
looking at this plan.
It's
talking
that side
about
right
this-
there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my directions correct. But I do think, as I was saying, just creating a larger offset just to 18 inches, which is only 10 inches more, will just break up that roof line enough that it won't read as one mass. You'll still have the same overhang depth and so forth as you do on the rest of the house. It'll just set in a little bit as it goes to the back. And it will pull the roof down just slightly, even though you'll have the same pitch.
Be able to keep the same pitch and put
Yeah,
it in.
it will just pull it back a little bit, so it just won't read as one single mass. And it's a relatively minor change to the plan that I don't think is going to affect your square footage too much. So I think that if you could do that, that would
I
make
don't-
all
I
the
don't see a
difference in the
problem.
world.
Yeah, I guess I need to sit back down with Amelia, or get your all's input, and then we'll go from
Right.
there. But
I think-
because on that side, if I offset it any on the east, on the west side, which the side is the addition, then the overhang has to change, and the pitch has to change.
Okay. Well, what I'm looking at is something that doesn't change. Right now, if you are coming down
That side.
this
right.
side of the house,
Right.
and right here you've got an 8-inch offset, all of a sudden the overhang increases by 8 inches in the back, in this part of the house.
Okay.
And by pulling this over 18 inches, you'll also pull the overhang over 18
Pull it back.
inches.
That's after
And-
the addition then.
Right,
After
at the
After
addition.
the end of the existing
Right,
house it is
exactly,
right now. Okay,
exactly.
all right. Okay, I agree with you there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're just it's just a step back, but you maintain the same dimension of your overhang and the same roof pitch.
Okay.
And because it's just that little bit different,
Now that
it
is-
will pull the roof down just slightly, just to make that
I agree,
demarcation
yeah.
between the original structure and the addition.
Okay.
And it will cost you 10 inches of interior space, but I think
Well, there's part of
in
the
your
porch
plan,
there anyway, and it's closet,
Right.
so that doesn't bother, that's fine. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I think that, as I said, I think that's a rather minor
Okay.
change that could really make a huge difference.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Monica?
Do you want me to jump in?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to pretty much echo what my colleagues have already indicated. My interpretation of the guidelines is right where the staff is. I think the recommendations are valid, and I think Mr. Magrish's idea and clarification of that step in on the west side where the existing addition is relatively minor to what
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
your
yeah.
your
Okay.
uses are. I think
Yeah, and
that
once I got beyond the existing, I'm good. Yeah.
maybe I guess the larger issue that's before us perhaps is on the east side where you're proposing to extend the wall out.
Right.
Are you talking about where he wants to remove the wall from the existing structure? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then continue it out another 4 feet before stepping in.
Yeah, that's really the thing I'm taking issue with.
I really think that there does have to be that corner, the original corner of the house there does need to be preserved and visible to make this not only this addition within the guidelines. I think it will make it more successful.
Okay.
I think that if you continue that out, even though you're changing material there, I think you'll get lost. I know it's a sort of a fine detail to talk about both the material change, but I really think that'll help make the addition stand out as a new space. And again, you're going to be losing some square footage on the interior there. But I think for the overall plan, we really don't look at interior space.
I understand.
But I think you can still accomplish what you want to do and still have that step in there. So, and with regard to your concerns about the planning issues about the step-ins, council, please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that we're the more restrictive zone. So if we make him step in at point X and continue that line stepped in, that would supersede and actually satisfy the planning.
That's correct.
So, okay.
Well, we wouldn't have to step in again then, I guess.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. All right.
So I think it'll be a cleaner
I'm
solution
fine
at
with
the
that,
end?
yeah. That, what my worry was, if I was going to step in there, was I going to have to go down there another 10 or 20 feet once I exceed that 50 feet and go in again, I guess. So if I don't have to, if we got one clean line in there, that works.
I think we're on the same page.
Okay, great.
I was just going to say also, I think structurally, because that's part of the original structure, it'll maintain the integrity of the corner of the house by maintaining at least that corner.
But actually, probably, now that I think about the construction, it'll make it easier, because
Yeah.
I don't have to
It should be
try to
more
preserve those old
cost-effective.
brick and try to lay them back, and tooth them in and everything, so, yeah.
It
Okay,
should make your construction quicker, easier,
right.
thereby less expensive. It's always a good thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's exactly right.
Good? Okay. Let's see if anyone in the audience has any comments or questions regarding this case. Okay. Not hear anything else? I think we're
good. I'm
I
good.
think we're good. All right. Certainly entertain a motion regarding this case, please.
Mr. Chair, regarding case number 17020-144-A at 144 Shawnee Place, I'd like to have the application approved as submitted with the recommendations, with the staff recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Magrish. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ms. Sumner. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe the next case is in the South Ashland Central Avenue Historic District. Pardon me while I flip to the case here. Almost there. Okay. It's at 723 Central Avenue. The scope of the work is to replace window sashes. Is that applicant present?
The applicant's not present, but did receive a copy of the staff report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ginocchio. Board members, once again, staff's recommending disapproval of this application. Perhaps we should try going back to the case in Woodward Heights and give the applicant an opportunity to arrive. All right. Well, if we'll go back quickly here to Woodward Heights Historic District at 839 West High Street. Has that applicant arrived? No. Okay. Just to go over the case again briefly, staff's recommending disapproval of the existing condition of stamped colored concrete slab extending from the back edge of the public walk to the side fenced yard, and the use of current design elements in the steps of the public walk. Staff's recommending approval is submitted of the concrete paved driveway and parking area beyond the side fenced yard, with a single condition that all existing remaining gravel areas adjacent to the new concrete work be removed from site and those areas be leveled with topsoil seeded straw for turf. Our deadline for board action is August 25th. And certainly the board's, we can go ahead and act tonight or not. Is anyone in the audience here to speak to this case this evening at 839 West High Street? Okay. Ms. Sumner, Mr. Magrish, what's your pleasure?
I think it's pretty straightforward, and I'm sorry the applicant is not present to discuss it, but I think that we can move on it.
I concur. Okay. All right. Well, certainly entertain a motion then regarding case 09300 839F, 839 West High Street.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chair, for case 09300-839-F at 839 West High Street. I'd like to make a motion that we disapprove the entire stamped colored concrete slab extending from the back edge of the public walk to the side yard fence line, and the use of the curved design elements in the steps for the public walk, and approve the concrete paved driveway and parking area beyond the side yard fence with the staff's condition about topsoil and turf.
Thank you, Mr. Mackers. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second that.
Ms. Sumner, thank you. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Okay, we're back to 723 Central Avenue. Replace window sashes. Has that applicant arrived? Okay. Members of the board, again, staff's recommending disapproval is submitted. Our deadline for action is August 24th.
I think, once again, this is a similar situation where it is fairly, or is actually clean cut, and that we can go ahead and make a
I agree.
movement.
Is anyone in the audience here to speak to the case at 723 Central Avenue? Okay. Well, we'd certainly entertain a motion on this one, please.
Mr. Chairman, regarding case number 036-30723-D at 723 Central Avenue, I would make a motion that we disapprove the application as submitted.
Thank you, Ms. Sumner. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Maggers. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that concludes our Certificate of Appropriateness applications portion of the program this evening. We're now going to move into a less formal arena. Conceptual reviews, this is where we can talk about cases before the actual legal permitting process takes place to help discuss ideas and concepts and help direct projects and enter into a little more free dialogue between the applicant, interested parties, board, and staff. It's been our experience that these really help make a much better product in the end, and when the actual permitting process comes forward, it usually facilitates getting through all the necessary hurdles there. So the first conceptual review we have this evening is in the Constitution Street Historic District at 312 North Limestone. And staff, if you would, go ahead and run through the presentation on this, and then we'll start talking. Thank you.
This is the site at 312 North Limestone. It's currently known as the Carrick House. The proposal for the structure is to construct a new addition. We've seen an earlier informal presentation about the proposal that would have been in this location. Now the proposal is to relocate their parking into the location in the foreground. Again, this is an existing temporary tent that's been put up, and in the paving you can see in the foreground would be extended along the East 3rd Street. Here again is the existing parking lot of two properties on East 3rd Street owned by the owner of the Carrick House, including also the parking for the structure. This is also the proposal for where the new structure will be located. And the new building is going to swing around and connect to the back of the Carrick House, which you see in the foreground, with a lobby, and then towards the north side will be service features such as the kitchen, new bathroom, closet, and area, and also a internal atrium
which we saw in the present plan, which was located on the front. Now it's going to be inside the building. Here again is sort of the location of where the new addition to the structure would be located. Oh, wow. This is nice. And so the existing Carrick House is approximately 8,000 square feet, and the new proposal would be roughly about just shy of 10,000 square feet. This is sort of the existing back of the building where the new lobby would attach. Again, here's just sort of the back side of the building that the new addition would attach to. Including this proposal, since the building would swing and connect the back of the building to Lake Alley, the building in the foreground is proposed to be demolished. And this is sort of an overall sight from the back of the building standing at Lake Alley. If we can look at the plans, please. I'll just roughly run through these. Guidelines are included for your reference. Here are the extending of the parking to connect with the circular driveway. It's extending of the new build with including a patio. There is a second driveway that extends this way, and this will be removed for the new addition. Next plan, please. Here's just a floor plan. Next image, please. Oh. Well, let's maybe move on to some elevations, please. Mark, could you put elevations up? Findings. As this is a conceptual review, the staff has no findings at this time. However, some of the issues to be considered include the following. Is it appropriate to construct a new addition onto an already 8,000 square foot building? Does the scale of the proposed addition dwarf the structure it would be connected to? Is the size of the proposed addition too large for the site? Is the complexity of the building form and shape compatible with existing adjacent buildings? Does the architectural details and articulation of new construction relate in scale, rhythm, proportion, and texture to the existing building? Existing adjacent surrounding buildings. This is the rear of the building. This is the elevation from 3rd Street. Is the setback consistent with the other structures on North Limestone and East 3rd Street? Do the proportion, structural emphasis, and rhythm of the new buildings reflect the predominant proportion, emphasis, and rhythm of existing adjacent surrounding buildings? Does the roof of the new building relate in shape, pitch, and materials to the roofs of the existing and adjacent buildings? Are the openings compatible in scale, size, proportion to established patterns of the openings of existing and adjacent buildings? Are the materials in scale to the building in which they are located incompatible with the materials on the existing and adjacent surrounding buildings? Are the utilities to be placed where they are least visible and intrusive to the site? Should the buildings have a more compatible relationship with the buildings set back on 3rd Street? Is it appropriate for the parking lot to be located along 3rd? Staff has no recommendations at this time, and the applicant is here.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. I would applicant like to come forward, please. I would note for the record that there have been 2 letters submitted expressing concerns regarding the case. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I won't talk too long. Good afternoon, I'm Rena Wiseman. I'm here for GCL Properties, LLC, and the principal member, Jerry Lundergan, is here, as are 2 of his daughters, Allison and Ashley. Clayton Farmer is the architect, and he's going to be addressing the more specific design issues. I wanted to give a little background and maybe explain some of the whys, and then he can tell you more of the hows, how we did it, and I can maybe tell you why we're doing it. I want to explain also, we haven't been before you since February, but that we have been working on this plan since then. Obviously, one of the concerns that this board raised in February was the location of the addition, that it was on the side of the building, and there were several suggestions that it be moved to the rear. So the applicant took that to heart, and Clayton went back and worked on a design to accomplish that. In doing that, if you may be familiar with this property, there's actually 2 properties. There's the 312 North Limestone property, which was the original Carrick House property, and then there's the property at 135, 139 East 3rd Street, thinking of New York, that was the old Ashley property. When the addition was moved, it then encroached onto that property, and we did not have a good picture of how those 2 properties would fit together and how the property line would be affected. We already had an approved parking lot on the East 3rd Street, and we needed to see a complete picture. So we had to get Roger Ladenberger, our land surveyor, back into the program, and he and Clayton worked to where we could get an overall site plan to see how the house sat with relationship to the 3rd Street property. So that has taken some time, but along a parallel line, Clayton has been working on further revisions to the addition. The most recent one that is before you is one that there was a lot of input from the company, from the owners of the business, as to the interior space and how the space was going to be oriented to serve the events. For example, the serving area can now be moved from the back hall of Carrick House, and it's going to be in a new area that's in the middle, so it can accommodate events both at Carrick House and both at the addition. So there were a lot of interior changes. So I just wanted to let you know that we have been working on this plan since we were before you. The other issue I wanted to also address, because it really comes out in the first 3 issues raised by the staff, and I believe in one of the letters that we saw a few minutes ago, and that has to do with the size of this facility. The simple answer to why it is this size is because of the kind of facility it is. My clients are in the business of doing receptions, primarily wedding receptions, private receptions. There are some business functions during the day, like the Women Lawyers Association meets there once a month. But their primary business is weddings, and they have to be set up to accommodate a 300-person wedding. And if this facility cannot accommodate a 300-person wedding, then it's not economically viable. This addition will cost $3 million, and if you can't accommodate those sorts of events, it makes no economic sense to construct it. They can tell you that since they've been in operation, they've had to turn away 40 people who wanted to have receptions here because we couldn't accommodate anything over 300. We can probably make 300 now, but beyond that, we cannot. The seating, and they can explain that better, shows the banquet floor is just over 5,000 square feet, and that's to accommodate tables for 256 people. And there is a ratio that is used that there's an assumption that not everybody sits at the same time. So if you have a 300-person wedding, you're not going to seat 300 people. You seat something less than that. So the 256 is not to suggest that there will only be events for 256 people, but those seats will accommodate the 300-person type wedding. There have not been, nor are there any plans to hold 1,500 people events on this property. I think that number was in one of the letters that you got this afternoon. This is to accommodate weddings. That's the business that they do, and they have had a lot of demand for it, and again, have had to turn away people because of the inability to accommodate that kind of number. So that's why it is that size. The packet that you got breaks down the square footage. Once you take away the banquet floor area, which is to accommodate those tables for a sit-down wedding, then you have space for serving, you have space for a stage or dance floor, you have space for the entry lobby on the 3rd Street side, mechanical space, and so on. So that adds up, but a building of 5,000 square feet wouldn't accommodate this, because you couldn't have the floor accommodate those tables, you would have no dance floor, you would have no serving area, etc. So that is the why it has been designed this way. It has been designed to be behind the building. I know one of the comments, a couple of comments in here about setback along 3rd Street, but in moving it behind the building, it went further away from 3rd Street. That was just a balancing choice that we made, and felt that in trying to keep Carrick House the predominant building on this site, that was the appropriate direction. Again, that was the direction that you gave to us. Clayton can talk to you about his design and his materials choice as to how he thinks, nonetheless, if you just go square footage, that this is not overwhelming in scale because of the expansive glass and the window treatment and so on. He can explain that to you better than I can, but the way I have understood it is, if you consider the Carrick House itself, it's a large, massive, monumental type structure, mostly brick, very few windows. In contrast, this one is more light. It's delicate, if you will, with a lot more glass. There's some brick, but not as much brick as the other. So it is, in appearance, not going to dwarf the structure, and I think it'll be difficult to see the addition coming up limestone. Maybe there'll be one point where you might catch a glimpse, but it's set back 13 feet from the south facade of Carrick House. So he has taken the challenge to design this of a size that's economically viable for the use, and yet make it conform to the guidelines. The only other point I wanted to make with regard to staff comments was the last one about whether it was appropriate for the parking lot to be located along 3rd Street. Again, the parking lot for Carrick House has always been on 3rd Street, and we were here in August of last year and have approval for the property at 135, 139 East 3rd Street for a parking lot. So it's already been, the assumption has been that there's going to be some level of surface parking in those areas. The result of this plan is that we've reconfigured it. It's a unified parking. When we had the other arrangement, the parking was separated by the building. I think that made it more confusing, less convenient. I think this circulation works better. We've eliminated one access onto 3rd Street. The only access onto 3rd will be the Lake Alley. You will have the opportunity to drop people off at the circle in front. We intend that to be the front entrance. We are also going to pursue parking on that circle with some sort of alternative paving to allow some additional parking space. And I also forgot to mention, and Clayton would want me to, that one of the other things that he has added on this is the grass strip along 3rd Street is going to be designed and constructed as a rain garden. So that's another good design feature for this. That's my introduction and overview about how we got here at this point, why it is the size that it is. One last point I do want to make, and we are mindful that there has been some interest in this project, and my client has tried very hard to work with the neighbors. We have provided copies of all the plans that we've worked on this summer to Linda Carroll and John Morgan, who've been our primary contact with the Neighborhood Association. Mr. Lundergan went to see them early in this process, and we have offered at all times to sit down and meet with them about this addition. We haven't had any further conversation at this point, but we are very mindful of trying to work with the neighborhood. It was the neighborhood that told us over a year and a half ago that they would prefer a permanent addition rather than the solution of the temporary structure. And that is why we are doing this. And this is to permanently replace the temporary structure. There will be no need for that if this permanent addition can be done. And we want to build it. We want to build it consistent with your guidelines. We think this plan has gone a long way to do that. Obviously, there are some things you want to talk about. And again, I'll let Clayton respond to those, but those are sort of the background points I wanted to make with you.
Ms. White, thank you very much. Let's see if anyone has any quick questions for you before you go. Mr. Magrish, Ms. Sumner? Thank you very much. Sir?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Clayton Farmer, and I am the architect for the project. Please start. The last time that we were here, we took note of the comments that you all made to us, and we tried to incorporate those into the new design. The earlier design had the addition at the side of the carriage house, which is really where the owner desired to have it because that's where the temporary structure is. But we were able to convince him that we could have the same type of activity and do this at the rear of the building, which is what was suggested in the last meeting. And not only is it at the rear of the building, but it sets 13 feet back from the south facade. So it's really not very easily visual from Limestone at all. Of course, it is from 3rd Street. But the actual contact of the addition to the carriage house is 19 feet. You can see the courtyard that is indicated, the open courtyard, and it is presently there as a patio for the carriage house. And the wall of the carriage house that faces out onto that patio will be the existing wall that is there now, with only a connection from the serving area into the carriage house and a hallway down the side of the carriage house where there's an unusable elevator shaft. Yes, it would put the floor here. Does he have that? Okay. The little courtyard serves as a hallway, as a connector between the carriage house and the addition, allowing the carriage house to actually use some of the facilities in a dual function, such as for a wedding. One of the nice things I think that happens here is the carriage house used for this type of an event will bring the public into the carriage house. Unlike some other uses the Carrick House has had in the past, it was only used for dozens of people, not hundreds of people. So a number of people, a great number of people, are going to get to see the adventure of the house itself through the use of the addition. The drive out front, it was suggested that we make that a one-way drive, coming in off of Limestone and exiting onto Limestone, and that's what we have done. The parking lot itself is a one-way drive that's sort of in a Ben-Hur kind of a loop that allows us to, if you don't find a parking space, you can circle back around and keep going till you get one. And also, it allows us 2 drop-off points, one at the front of the Carrick House and another that's at the entrance to the addition. We have saved every existing tree on the site except for one. There is a poplar tree that sits just off the loading dock area on the north side, and that, if it is desired by this committee to keep that tree, we can make a configuration that would even save that tree. But in this design, that's the only tree that will be lost to the construction. The large tree that you see that is in the indented area on the north side is presently there. That is a 50-inch hickory nut tree, and that tree will be saved. Get the elevation sheet? I tried to incorporate some design features from the Carrick House in a modern day design, such as where the glass is on the addition. I'm using a stepped back brick that undulates in. That is a common feature on the front of the Carrick House. And you find that? Right. It doesn't show on the Carrick House in this elevation, but on the front of the Carrick House, there's 4 columns and then there's 2 wings. And incidentally, those wings were added at some point in time in history after the center core of the Carrick House was built. So there is some difference in the design of those 2 additions as compared to the front entrance of the house. I tried to somewhat formulate a design with the new entrance that is mindful of the Carrick House, because I do have the main entrance with the 4 columns, and then the wings that are just to the side that are slightly pushed back. They do have a center band that makes the building appear to be a 2-story building when it really, in actuality, is only a 1-story building. But it indicates that similar to the Carrick House front elevation. And so there is some similarity in the design, but it's not exact. The skylight that you see at the top actually sets back from the front of the building some 25 feet. So it's not going to be as evident visually as you see in the elevation. But if that is a concern, we can certainly lower it, make it smaller, do any of those things that might be suggested. The building is brick veneer. We do have fiberglass columns. The glass that you see behind the fiberglass columns in the wings is a full span of glass. It does not meet at the column. The column sits forward of the glass, but it does give the appearance of individual windows. We had intended to, or the owner has suggested that we paint the building white, like the Carrick House. If it is desired to leave it red brick, we can do that too. The new entrance, the new 4-columned entrance, is a limestone, which is already white, and would serve to give some comparison to the house itself. The building that connects to the carriage house is only a one-story connection. There are no windows on the carriage house that are lost. The second floor windows look out on the roof of the addition, but they're free to bring in light, and they do look down into the courtyard. It's that connects to both elements. That's about it. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Sir, thank you very much.
All right.
Ms. Sumner?
I would be happy to start the conversation.
Thank you.
I think that since the last time we spoke and you came before this group, my personal opinion is that this is definitely moving in the right direction. I see vast improvement to the space planning, the architectural articulation. You're working on the mass. I mean, those things are evident. Responding to the parking. So there is improvement. I think there are still some things to discuss, which is obviously why you're here, and we appreciate that. I just have questions. Let me ask those questions. You can answer them, and then I'll let someone else have a turn, and we'll just go back and forth. Let's see. The grass parking that you've noted along the curved driveway, is that to have any type of structure added to it, or is it strictly just pull off into the grass?
No, it will have a paver pattern to it.
Okay.
They're actually made out of a fiberglass pattern, which is smaller than the brick pattern. So when it fills up with grass, you
it's fine.
You
That's
really
what I was
wouldn't
looking
even
for.
see it.
Good, because I was just concerned that during the wedding season, as it may be, it would get pretty sloppy out there. So that's good.
Right.
The rain garden, is that, this word is used often, so I mean no offense by this. Is this truly designed to be a rain garden? In the sense,
yes, it would be.
Okay, so using the proper plant material, you've got drainage running to it. You're going to swale that. It's going to be a real working, functioning rain garden.
And actually on my drawing, it only shows it to be a partial area on 3rd Street. After I made the drawing, my true feeling is it should run the full length of the parking lot on that side. So
I think depending on how you intend to drain the parking lot will determine that.
Right.
But I was just curious if that term was being used loosely or technically correct.
The land has a natural slope to 3rd Street.
Yes, it does.
At the moment, we had a design at one time that actually had the wing in more of an L shape coming off the back of the carriage house. But it actually, once we maintained the same elevation, the floor elevation, we wound up with about a 5-foot wall at the end. It basically became almost fortress looking. And so that's when we took it clear to the back, which is relatively level. It actually slopes toward limestone from the back.
Yes. Okay. A couple of observations, and I'm still looking at the floor plan, by the way. I've got markings on the floor plan and the elevation. The floor plan, I just had 2 comments on here, so I'll let you guys have a turn. The existing tree that's noted that you are so carefully niching the building around, I think that's excellent effort. However, I am concerned that that tree will be very upset with us for doing that. So my advice, which is not within the realm of this group, but having faced similar problems with my own profession, and maybe you've done this, I would recommend that you contact an arborist to really find the proper spacing.
We can do that.
Because if you really want to save the tree,
right,
it may not, the distance between the trunk and the building may not accomplish it. So if the desire is to save the tree, the outcome may not do that if the building is still too close to the tree.
The owner was sensitive to that, and actually I recommended taking the tree out. because
Okay, well, whatever the
it made
pleasure
the
of-
design easier, but he
Right.
wanted to keep the tree if it was at all possible. But
Well, it is a lovely tree, and I respect that the architecture is trying to respect the tree, but I'm just concerned that the distance isn't quite right yet around that tree,
we
because
would,
it's a massive tree.
we would attend to that in the proper
Okay,
way.
so that's a side comment. The other thing regarding the size of the banquet hall, I understand the function of that, and I'm not really going to pick on that at this moment. Ms. Wiseman noted that 256 seats are shown, and the spacing on that, the banquet floor per this document that you provided is 5716 square feet for the banquet hall. And with tables and chairs, the building code calculates 15 square feet per person in that environment, which would render space for 381 people. So
The type of operation, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the type of operation that the owner runs, they need extra room around the tables. I know what the code says, but they need
I
extra room
understand.
because they have a multitude of servers.
I understand.
And it's different from a restaurant.
Granted, all I'm mentioning is, where I'm going with that statement is that pending the outcome of this discussion, and if there has to be more room made to accommodate the tree, for example.
Right.
See, I think there can be a little etching away of that space and still provide ample space for
I would agree with you.
250 people seated, plus servers, plus folks dancing, plus a band, et cetera. So I think you've got ample room here, even to squeeze it in a little bit here and there more, for whatever reason. I think that there's still great room here to accomplish the owner's need.
I agree with you, and of course, we're still in the preliminary stages of this.
Understand.
We would do some tweaking on it. I'm much in favor of making the building smaller, if for no other reason than the cost of the building to the owner.
Right. Well, I'm strictly speaking from what housing, building, and construction allows for occupancy loads, et cetera.
Right.
And that leads me to a question. Has this had a preliminary review by HBC? Housing, building, and construction?
No, it has not.
Okay, I was just curious if they had any comments regarding. Okay. A comment about the exterior. I'm looking at the 3rd Street and the Lake Alley elevation page.
All right.
You pointed out that looking at the 3rd Street side, the main entrance is reflective of the porch and the main body of the Carrick House, and then it is flanked by the two
Right.
other wings. So I note that and appreciate that consideration of the Carrick House with its dimension. I definitely think that these elevations are truly better than the first set. I'm still struggling with the heaviness of this. I think that the attempt, or the statement has been made several times that we're trying to make it light and airy with use of windows, and that's going to do some of that, but it's not going to really complete that attempt. And I think from my perspective, there could be just a little softening on the detail, because what's making this thing, I think, seem so monolithic is just the hardness and the squareness of it. Mm-hmm. Granted, just offering an opinion, and it's truly better than it was the first time, but I want to caution that just because it has a lot of glass, I don't think that's going to make it come off as a light and airy structure, because it's still very large. The painting white on the brick, I'm still thinking about that one. That could be fine. The use, you stated that the front entry piece was going to be limestone. However, the drawings say precast stone.
Right.
And those are very different
They do make a
materials.
precast stone that I was looking at when I made this drawing. I tend to think that I would rather use the limestone rather than they make a precast stone that looks very much like a limestone, but it's
not quite as nice.
It would yellow over the years.
Yes. Yeah.
And the limestone won't.
So whether or not we deem that material appropriate or not, I was just clearing up what it was. If it was precast, which is a man-made product, or if it was a natural cut Indiana limestone,
When
which
I
is
made
what
this
is around here.
drawings several weeks ago.
That's fine, that's fine.
We were looking at the precast stone, but I've since thought better of that.
Okay. I'm just attempting to gain some understanding about what the intentions are. I appreciate also that you've tried to save all of the existing windows on the Carrick House. I think that's a nice effort.
And actually, you can see in the Lake Alley elevation.
Yes, sir.
See the two windows on the Carrick House that
I
are
do.
there?
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason for the setback, because I want those are the primary windows on the rear of the house.
Good. What type of consideration was given to the proportion of the new windows and glazing?
Well, what I did in the glass, as I said, is a full wall of glass. When you're inside the building, you're looking through the glass and seeing the back side of the fiberglass columns. But on the outside of the house, where the fiberglass columns hide the glass, it does give the appearance of individual windows or individual panes of glass, which is very much like the Carrick House.
And what about the windows, the punched openings to the far right side of the 3rd Street elevation? Give me your thoughts about those
are
proportions.
I have a section in there too that goes through that wall.
Yes.
And as you can see, if you look at that section, the lower level has the brick piers that come out about 3 feet or 2.5 feet, and then a recessed pane of glass. So, correctly drawn, you would see a shadow form on the lower glass, whereas the upper glass is out on the face of the building and has a sloped seal inside. Now, the trim on those windows, I've drawn in the circle detail, that has a historic trim on it that's very much like the wood trim of the Carrick House. It does almost a crown mold type shape on the edge of the window. So it does get a little heavier on the glass. That was the intent.
Okay. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Anyone else?
Thank you very much. Mr. Magrish, if I could jump in?
Thank you. I have to, I agree totally with Monica. I think that you've made great strides in this design. It definitely addresses a lot of the issues that we had, and I can see where you are definitely trying to look at the details of the existing house and work with them in the new structure. I mean, of course, starting with the fact it is a very large structure. I totally understand the reason for its size, understand the function of it, understand viability and vitality and all the other V's that deal with making this all work. So, normally this would not be something that would even come close to following in the guidelines, no matter how nice the design is. Simply because of its size. But the reality is, if that's what needs to happen to make it a viable site, a viable business, then we have to look at the guidelines and work around them and through them.
I understand.
That said, I think that the primarily looking at the facade, the 3rd Street facade, the fact that you are projecting and pulling back, it breaks down the mass. I think that one thing that would be very helpful for the board and also for possibly the neighbors is to see if there could be a drawing that was generated that sort of showed it with light and shade.
We are in production of a 3-dimensional model.
Excellent.
right now.
Excellent.
And I had hoped to have it ready for tonight, but it's taken a while.
Well,
to get done.
it does take some time to do. But I think that the earlier comment about possibly enlarging the area around that tree, just really for the necessity of maintaining the tree, might need to happen a little bit, not extensively, but
No, I appreciate the
form.
suggestion, and I will get someone else involved with that can give.
And I think it's really wonderful to try to retain that particular tree because it is significant, and I think it adds some character to the overall building. It also, in some way, sort of hides part of the building, so it doesn't appear maybe as
Right.
a big a unit.
And we are planting other trees
Right.
in the parking lot and around the building that will also begin to hide the addition.
Right.
And soften it quite a bit.
In time, there's wonders what can be done with trees and lots of vines, but when it's first built, it's often...
where the actual building on the front, if you'll look at the 3rd Street elevation, where it actually connects to the house, that's a 3.5-foot space in there, and it's only 13 feet high, because that's part of the lower roof, and I had intended to put that in an ivy trellis that would give a true separation. It's recessed anyway, about 2 feet, and I wanted to put that in as they make a vinyl-covered trellis that you can put ivy on, and it grows all the way up. You see it down in Florida. You see it on a lot of shopping centers areas and whatever they want to block.
Well, I think that the separation of the building is actually very good visually. The fact that it is very small and is not, it really interfering with the historic structure in a great way. I mean, one of the goals, of course, is not saying that this would happen tomorrow, but is if in 50 years or 30 years, if somebody should decide to remove this addition, that as little of the original structure is altered to accommodate it. So I think that what you're doing here is really good.
Thank you.
With the secondary entry, the part that has either the precast or the limestone facade, I see where there's limestone occurring on the original house. It never really occurs as an entire facade. So you might rethink using that for that entire piece. You might be able to use it as an accent or something like that. But I think that if you're going to try to stay a little bit closer to the original structure, you might look at brick.
I looked at it both ways, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm about 50-50, on it.
No, I understand you're trying to accentuate this sort of entrance pavilion, but I think, again, just relating back to the house, just in material, I think it's fine to use limestone or whatever as an accent.
Actually, the foundation of the house is more of a Kentucky River marble.
Well, that's very typical of Lexington. Yeah. We just finished at the steps, and where the company would see it, right? The overall, I mean, again, I think it's much better. I think you just need to look, and let me just qualify this. I'm not sure. I haven't been up there in a while, but this photograph is not exactly perfectly to scale, but I think that you might need to look a little bit closer at the actual dimensions of some of the details on the historic structure, and just use that just ever so slightly to sort of tweak some of the pilasters and the the banding and so forth.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm getting is I'm getting a little bit Frank Lloyd Wright here, and we really want a little bit more Greek revival.
Well, one of my personal items.
Oh, hey, Frank did some great stuff, so I mean, there's no problem with that. But I just think that you just look a little bit closer, at the actual dimensioning and so forth.
I can do that.
I mean, not saying to replicate exactly, but you can kind of get a scale and proportion, and you're very, very close. I just think that it just needs to be tweaked.
Well,
Monica said,
it's a work
just
in
ever
progress.
so slightly. Exactly.
I was part of the design team for the Kentucky History Center, and so we went through a lot of these same situations when dealing with the Lieutenant Governor's Mansion and some of the surrounding buildings. And
yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting there, and it's very close. I think that I think as an overall design, it really does function. It's, as I said before, it still is very large. That is going to continue to be an issue. but that is what it's going to take to make this happen. So I think that by really looking at the details and how it's all put together, you can make it work very successfully.
I think we can get deeper into that when I do get this 3D model put together.
Exactly.
Because the way we do them, we'll be able to walk you around the house and take it from different angles.
Exactly.
And
No, they're a wonderful tool, and they can give you a lot of information, and
Right.
you can also see how things work or don't work. But I think you're moving definitely. You're just very, very close to
All right.
having a very workable plan.
appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Magrish. Let's see if anybody in the audience would like to make any comments or questions. No? Staff?
The staff is shared with the applicant's representatives and both architect and attorneys. There are concerns about the proposal, and so I won't reiterate all that here. I'd say generally those continue to be the same as what we have discussed in the past, and they're similar to what is being reflected in the board, but perhaps with more emphasis on the problem of the volume and the magnitude of the addition. The footprint is considerably larger than the historic house. And I think the guidelines, it's pretty clear that something of this scale in terms of the extensiveness of it, the run of the floor space, is not within the guidelines. Then the question, I think, will become, relative to the board's decision, relative to the programming needs of this operation, if there's a way that you as a board feel it could be accomplished appropriately and in a design sense with that consideration in mind. That's it.
Thank you very much. Now, do you all have any questions for us?
I don't know if this is the appropriate time since it's conceptual review, but we did have several letters from businesses in the area and on the street that are in support of this addition. And since you've gotten some other letters, I just thought we might give you those too, if that's appropriate. Or if
Sure,
you'd
I think,
rather-
there's no real public hearing yet, and if you'd like to provide them now, I think that's fine, and
And then I would just suggest then process-wise, you just provide them again for the record during your
We
formal
had them,
meeting.
and so
sure.
But certainly, we're glad to put them with the record of today as well.
Thank you very much. I'd just quickly echo my esteemed colleagues. This is it's obvious that you've done a lot of work and gone through a lot of hard processes to get from the original conceptual review that we had through the middle one and then here. It's a lot of hard work, and I really appreciate you going through the pains that you're going through. The other comment that I would make is you had mentioned briefly that you might consider lowering the skylight. I think that
Yes.
keep preserving as close as you can to keeping any new mass vertically, in this case, below the existing roof line of the Carrick House would be very advantageous in meeting the guidelines.
Yeah, we can go anywhere from lower to flat, even.
I make kind of cool flat or almost flat glass roof.
The skylight is the one that we plan to use, has rotating vanes in it to keep the sunlight from blaring, so it's
Cool.
really quite an attractive feature.
And just to further, we talked a little bit about adding some light and shadow graphics. I think this would be beneficial to everyone.
Right.
And I think any way that you can tweak the footprint in a reduction direction would also be advantageous. Certainly,
Presently, everything that you see drawn is drawn by hand. So we haven't put it to CAD yet.
Sure.
But once I thought I could get everyone on board to say, it looks pretty good, then we're going to put this on CAD, and that's where we can start to tweak it to get some better dimensional value.
It looks to me like there is a lot of generous space here. And typical in schematic design, everything is generous because that's how you start. So I do think that with some pencil sharpening, my belief is that you can meet the needs of the users and perhaps get closer to satisfying
I would
our goals.
agree with you.
Okay.
and certainly staff is there to help you, and there are many certified arborists in the area, and staff has a list of those that have worked with the Preservation Office before, and of course there's a lot to choose from.
Okay.
Could staff inquire one thing?
Yes.
We'd like to recommend, I think, that you do one more conceptual review on this with the board before coming for formal application. But I wanted to ask if you all are interested in doing that and what the board's pleasure is in terms of procedurally how you'd like to go on with this.
I would certainly recommend that if you all would entertain it. I think that I think it might, even though it's going to add another meeting for you all at a conceptual level, I think it will actually shorten your project time, because I think we'll be able to discuss.
How quickly could we do that?
I think
The
submittal-wise.
staff would need the, whatever new materials in terms of your drawings and so forth are generated.
To help you out, it's probably going to take us about another 2 weeks to generate this 3D document.
Well, I would say within that we could have it possible for the second meeting in August.
I would think so.
Which would be August the 26th. We would need the material around August 16th. I don't know off the top of my head if that's a Saturday or a Sunday, but is it a Thursday? That sounds good. Because we get the packets out to the board the middle of that following week. So the 16th would give you from now almost 3 weeks.
Let me ask one thing. In a 3D document, it's we can do a picture, but what we'd like to do is bring it in on a computer disk where we can show it on your screen. But we won't be able to do that in a submittal that we can make.
Right.
a
No,
submittal of
everything that you would be sending in the paper form in terms of drawings and such, and then obviously bring with you the disc for viewing here at the meeting.
Okay, that sounds fine.
Fantastic. Again, thank you all very much, and
I thank you.
Thank you.
This was much more pleasant than last time.
We try to be pleasant every time.
Very good.
One quick thing, if you have funds left over, one thing that would really, really be great is you could take that little mansard thing off the top of the existing house. That obviously was a cornice that had some kind of parapet wall that somebody did a quick fix on, and it would make the house read a lot better without it. So just something to think about.
All right.
Thank you.
okay. Absolutely. If we'll take a 2, 3, 5 minute break briefly to regroup, and we'll be right back with the conceptual review for 126 East 3rd Street. Thank you for everybody's patience, and I think we're ready to get back to it here. The next conceptual review is in the Constitution Street Historic District at 126 East 3rd Street. The scope of the work is to construct an addition. And Ms. Armstrong, if you would be so kind.
This is the structure earlier this year. Of course, it went before the board. This is 126 East 3rd Street. This went before the board to have the openings changed and to take off an addition. Also has received a staff-issued permit for restoration work. This project first originally went before the board about 3 years ago and received permission, or 4 years ago, permission to change these openings and to construct an addition. At that time, the permit was an issue because there were particular conditions that had to come back and to staff prior to issuance of the COA, and that was never done. At this time, the applicant is asking for a conceptual review of a variation of a similar addition, and I'll just walk you through the site. This is as of its new opening change, and this was in the foreground. This would receive permission to be removed. You can see it again in the foreground. This is a very narrow site. This is lot line to lot line. Very narrow. It's only the width of the house is the width of the site. And this is as of the addition being removed, exposing the elevation of additions, or exposing the evolution of additions. And in the proposal now, there is an actual
Existing door opening that was bricked in for window.
And the new proposal will utilize some of the existing scenarios. Here again is the addition once that the side of the house once it was removed. Sort of gives you a view over the fence. This is the rear view. And then this is from, including the garages in the foreground, and this is standing at the alley. Randy, if we could see the elevations, please. Or the plans. I think it might be all-inclusive. This is the plan, or it actually shows the existing. Next, please. This is the proposed plan. It's a side elevation. It's the rear view. Here's another section. This includes upper story, and then there is once it comes down from a gable and flattens out, there's going to be a green roof. The guidelines are included for your reference. Excuse me 1 second. As this is only conceptual review. Staff has no findings at this time. However, items to be considered include: is it appropriate to construct a new one-story addition on the existing structure? Does the addition have the compatible design that is keeping with the original building's design, roof shape, materials, color, and location of window, door, and cornice heights? Does the addition reflect characteristics of the current building period and design, but compatible with the original building? Will the addition be built in a manner that avoids substantive removal and loss of historic materials, which does not damage or destroy the main architectural features of the building? Are the materials compatible to the existing structure in the historic district? Is the rooftop garden compatible in scale materials with the principal structure and surrounding buildings? Will the new boundary definers will be appropriate for this narrow site? Recommendation, none at this time, and the applicant is present.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. If the applicant would like to come forward, we'd certainly like to talk with you.
Hi, my name is Patrick Morgan. I'm with ThoughtSpace Architects, the architects working on the project, and I'm also the son of the clients. So you saw, I hand you a packet as well, and I think it's going to be on the screen here in a second, of some of the things that, like, most of it's pretty much similar to what you've seen, but a few minor things have been changed, and I've added some more renderings and 3D models, images for you to look at. So here in the first one, again, you can see that there's the gray being the additional square footage, which is only 250 square feet, adding on to the existing building, and then we'll be removing 2 sections as well. So here's what we're removing. We've already removed that side bathroom on the lower part of the drawing, and then we're also wanting to demolish the rear addition, which is a wood frame addition that is not in fitting with the brick that the front 3 rooms are made out of. Here's the floor plan again, and so you see we're adding on the hallway on the lower half, and then the kitchen on the back part of the building, as well as the bathroom, and redoing the staircase down to the existing basement, which could be used as a pantry or something of that nature. And then keeping a living room in the front, a office study in that next room down, and then a master bedroom in the center of the house. So a couple of things that we're having issues with, the reason we didn't get the COA originally, was there's an issue with setbacks. We've been to building inspection about that, and through many meetings it's been determined that the setbacks are fine in the B2A, so that's nothing to worry about. And then there's some egress issues, but those are currently being worked out, and as of now shouldn't have any issues with this project. And so here you can see back, so the wall along the property line is the big issue, like the big design queue in this project. It separates 122 and 126 being the project. And so this wall is really where you're taking a lot of issue. And so in this rendering, you can see some of the different materials and scales we're playing with. We're looking into using more modern, contemporary materials such as Corten steel or something similar, either stained plywood or something that has this modular effect to it, but then mixing that in with this green screen to try and bring plant life to this narrow walkway to give something to the neighbors. And then so you see it steps. The lower portion, it's where the green roof is behind, and then it steps up to form a railing for the terrace where you can see that silhouetted figure standing up there. Again, some more images of the project. You can see a glimpse of how the wall can be seen through that narrow passageway when you're walking down 3rd Street. It really doesn't affect the 3rd Street view of the project. When you're standing in the courtyard of 122, you can see that there's this pattern, the green wall. It really adds, there's a lot of texture to it, even for being such a long wall that it is. I'm really trying to play up on that. Again, more views looking up towards 3rd Street from the back parking lot of 122. Here's a 3D plan for you, so you can get an idea of where this green roof and terrace are going to be located. And so the green roof is, you can see the existing roof line, which we're planning on recladding in a galvanized steel standing seam, which is currently, when we ripped off the side bathroom addition, there was standing seam roof that was left underneath there. So it's taking it back to more what it was originally, we think. And so bringing that back to the project, and then adding the green roof on the lower portion, and then a terraced roof on the back portion. And really the terrace comes into play because even currently the lot sizes, the garden space in the back is really small. And so we're pushing it back another 10 feet to just make enough room for that kitchen. So adding that terrace on top really gives enough space to make it usable and have some space for people to have dinner and things of that nature. Here's some views of the project from Axons, just showing the play of walls and storefront and terraces and green roofs, just trying to get that idea, as well as the scale of the existing buildings. Showing that the building on the right-hand side is a 2-story building, and the building on the left is a 1-story in the front, 2-story in the back. So this 1-story building that we're creating fits in with that. Some more views. View from the terrace. And then the last one was the inside of the building, showing that hallway when you see from the inside. So there you see I'm trying to create some skylights to let light in, because with the zero lot line, windows are not allowed on that because it is, so trying to bring light in some other ways. So trying to play with the use of skylights to do that. That's where we're at.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's see what we have to talk about. Mr. Magrish, would you like to go?
Well, honestly, I think this is just really excellent. It's a wonderful solution for a very tight site. It's a great restoration of the historic structure. I think it's a great juxtaposition between the historic materials and the new ones. I mean, what more can I say? I'd build it.
Thank you, Mr. Magrish. Ms. Sumner?
Yes, I ditto that. I am a bit concerned with the choice of material. You named plywood as a facing material on that. And, I might rethink that. Okay. I don't know. Anyway, for various reasons, I think maintenance and what it's going to look like in a year, it could be pretty yucky.
Yeah, we do some tests with it, obviously, before we
Sure.
commit to anything like that.
But understanding that you can't have windows on that facade, understand that, and I think that it's got the right amount of funky to it, but the entrance facade is respected, and I think it's a good project.
See, is anyone in the audience? There is much. The audience left. Staff?
Staff's only question is, can we put just the right amount of funky in the guidelines?
I would only hope so.
It's already, that's right.
No, a very nice turn of phrase. Overall, I think the staff concurs with the board. I think when first looking at it, thought, the flat roof with the gables that are more characteristic of the neighborhood, is that really the way to go with it? But I think the juxtaposition of having the main mass roof and then the one that comes perpendicular to that and then graduating back up to the roof garden and all actually is provides enough transition to make it work very well. I think the cladding is a bit of an issue in terms of how to accomplish that, so I would, as has been suggested, as staff suggests, that be looked at further. Certainly, I think it's possible to do it in a contemporary material. Just don't know if that's the material in that sense within the guidelines. But it is a very tight configuration, and I think that would be the staff's comments at this time.
Thank you very much. Ditto. I think it's a very challenging site. I think that your design is exceptional. I think there's some other materials that I think you might have used, that your company's used on maybe another project or two that you might examine that might go well on this project as well.
Are there any in particular that are coming to mind? Or?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of addresses.
If you have general locations, we can get addresses.
North Limestone.
The garage project?
Yes, the garage.
The 400 block, then?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get, it's known, but we'll get that for the record.
I really think that the change in materials, the change in elevations, and everything you've done, all of the different play makes it, a very successful project. And thank you for such nice detailed drawings.
Thank you.
It makes everyone's job easier when this level of preparation has taken place. And do you have any questions for us or staff?
I don't think so. We'll just keep playing with some different materials to use on that wall. I mean, that's really where it comes into play a lot. So keep looking at like landscaping and things like that to go in the back and really design that back courtyard area to make it as usable as possible.
Excellent.
I think that's all I have.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good presentation.
Thanks.
Let's see. I believe the next conceptual reviews will be postponed to a later date. That was at 353 South Mill Street. We have two other items of business. There's a conflict in the October 14th, 2009 meeting. We need to change that to a different date. And I believe that the 12th of October, which is the Monday preceding that Wednesday, has been proposed as an appropriate time, that the council chambers would be open, and that the appropriate staff could be here. So if I could have a motion to that effect, I would greatly appreciate it.
I'll make the motion that the originally scheduled October 14th, 2009 meeting be rescheduled to October 12th, 2009.
Thank you, Ms. Sumner. Is there a second to the motion?
I will second that.
Thank you, Mr. Magrish. Any discussion of the motion?
Note, as you all would know to know, but that would also be at 5 p.m.
Yes.
Thank you. Any more discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The last item of business, it is time to come up with officers for the next year for the board, and I would like to appoint Ms. Sumner and Mr. Magrish as the nominating committee to come up with officers, and if you all could meet and discuss that and make a presentation at the next meeting, which is August the 12th, would greatly appreciate it.
Certainly.
Yes.
And would certainly thank you both very much. And if there was a motion to adjourn, I think we would certainly take a look at that.
So move.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Thank you both. Any discussion of the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all again.
Very good. I guess